Hello, everyone. Continuing around the continent of Africa, today we're going to start talking about Southern Africa, not to be confused with South Africa, which is a country within the region. So, 10 mainland countries and then 4 off the land countries, island countries, a couple territories as well that we won't touch on really at all are included in this region of Africa. First one is Angola. Now, Angola is one of 6 countries in the region that fall within the 25% of the largest countries in the world in land area. So, quite a few pretty large countries in this area. Next one is Zambia. Later on this year, before the year ends, we'll have a little guest presentation on Zambia. Zimbabwe, a landlocked country, has no coastal areas. Moving to the north, Malawi. Malawi is known as being a good farming country. Their leading crop is tobacco. They're also on Lake Malawi, which is the southernmost major lake in the eastern part of the Great Rift Valley. Now, Mozambique, another pretty big country. Not a lot has been known about Mozambique because of wars that were fought there. It was not explored much until recently. Most likely you've heard of Madagascar. Now, the big line that you see there is drawn just to emphasize how big Madagascar really is. It's over 900 miles from the northern tip to the southern tip. So, a little bit deceiving in how big it actually is. Now, one of my favorite parts about Madagascar is the baobab trees. There are 9 known species of the baobabs worldwide, and 6 of those 9 are on the island of Madagascar. So, this one here kind of looks like a tree that was planted upside down. It almost looks like those branches at the top ought to be the roots. Well, this variety is called the Grandidier's baobab, named after a botanist who identified them. Now, here's one of those island countries, the Seychelles. I guess it's a pretty small country. Kind of looks like a lot of the countries below the surface of the water from this Google Earth view. Caused by activity of tectonics, where those volcanoes came through the surface of the water. Next island country, Mauritius. This one also is out in the Indian Ocean area to the east of continental Africa. And Comoros, another small group. So the 4 smaller island countries combined make up an area about the size of Delaware, so not a significant land area. Kind of moving along like a typewriter here, heading back over to the west coast of Africa to the country of Namibia. Namibia, as we'll find out, is a pretty rich country in terms of mineral resources. Botswana is another landlocked country, a pretty dry country. And South Africa. South Africa has been heavily influenced by Europeans. Another very mineral-rich country has been exploited for that very reason by Europeans and other outsiders. Lesotho, carved out from inside of South Africa within the highland part of that country. And a country with 2 names, Swaziland, or if you prefer, Eswatini. So those are the countries of the region. A little bit about some of the key geographical features. The Great Escarpment is one of those key geographical features. So what you have is some rough, jagged mountains, mostly kind of mirroring the eastern part of Africa. And then as they descend toward the west, they kind of gradually slope. There's a series of plateaus. So we'll get into that a little bit more here. Now moving back into Namibia, the Namib Desert is one of the significant deserts within the region. It's not terribly hot there. It is just for the most part dry. So some vegetation can live in the Namib Desert because there's quite a bit of fog that comes off the Atlantic Ocean. Temperatures range generally from 48 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. The more famous desert in the area is the Kalahari Desert. So, in, compared to the Namib Desert, Kalahari Desert is at a much higher elevation, about 3,000 feet above sea level. It's bigger. Um, it does get some rain occasionally, whereas the Namib Desert, the moisture that it has generally comes from fog. So a little bit different type of desert here. Kind of moving back to the south part of South Africa. A karoo is basically a plateau type valley. So the Great Karoo lies between a couple of the mountain ranges on this great escarpment, and the Little Karoo just south of there, nearer to the coast, between again some of those Cape ranges, as they're called. The tallest mountains in the region are in the 11,000 to 12,000 foot range, and they're part of this Drakensberg mountain range. So lots of people from around the world will come here and go for hikes and to view the beautiful scenery. In terms of waterways, there are three major rivers that I want to mention. The first is the Zambezi River. Flows toward the east and into the Indian Ocean. Along the Zambezi River is the world famous Victoria Falls, named after one of the queens of England. Basically falls off a ledge into a huge cavern below, known by the locals as the Smoke That Thunders. So what we're looking at here is the Limpopo River. It does flow from the west to the east, again into the Indian Ocean. And next we'll take a look at the Limpopo River Basin. Pretty big in terms of the area that it drains, but not quite as big as the one coming up, which is the Orange River. So the Orange River begins in Lesotho, in that Drakensberg mountain area. And this one flows to the west, emptying into the Atlantic Ocean. There's supposed to be a photo there, but it's not showing up. Another key water feature of the region is Lake Malawi. Popular with tourists, useful for locals. And then this one, classifying it as a water feature, although very oftentimes there's no water there at all, but it's believed to be where a dried up lake once was. So the Etosha Pan within Etosha National Park is a popular spot for wildlife because of all the salt there. It serves as a source of nutrition for them. We should all be so lucky as to get to the Tropic of Capricorn and have our photos taken next to this sign, which is in Namibia. So what's the significance of the Tropic of Capricorn? What on earth is it? Well, basically, it's a line of latitude at 23 degrees, 26 minutes south of the equator. So anywhere north of this line, extending past the equator and all the way up to the Tropic of Cancer, if you're within that area, you are in the tropics. You're going to have warm weather, usually humid, moist weather as well. So within this part of Africa, there's some dry parts, but some parts also that get quite a bit of rain north of the Tropic of Capricorn. So over here, we're talking about Mozambique. Those are some of the wetter areas north of the tropic. And one example of that is actually south of the Tropic of Capricorn, which is Maputo, the capital of Mozambique. And it's pretty common there and in other places where they get monsoons. So they get pretty extreme rains that continue for long periods of time, which can lead to flooding, like what you see here. So in addition to those tropical climates, there are temperate climates. What does temperate mean? Well, if you have a parent that is temperate, it could probably be said that they don't have highs or lows. They're pretty even keeled in terms of their manner or their temperament. Well, if we're talking about the weather, we're just talking about no extremes. So no super hot times, no super cold times. So on this map, which is of the country of South Africa, not the whole region of Southern Africa. Anything that you see in yellow to green is considered temperate. Now, it could be that there's variations in moisture, precipitation, but as far as temperatures go, no huge swings. And then the last type of climate zone I want to mention is the desert type. Moving back over into Namibia here, you might remember this scene from a video earlier on this semester, Dedvlei, which is a part of the Namib Naukluft National Park in Namibia. Diamonds, diamonds, breathtaking diamonds. Sometimes there are diamond companies that advertise. One of them is De Beers, which you may have heard of. This happens to be their diamond mine, the Petra Diamonds mine in Kimberley, not Kimberley, Wisconsin, but Kimberley, South Africa. It's so huge that you can see it from outer space. Unfortunately, diamonds have a little bit of a sullied reputation in this part of the world because oftentimes the sale of diamonds from Africa has been used to fund conflicts and wars and rebellions. So in those instances, those diamonds are referred to as blood diamonds. Now, not only have diamonds been important to the region, but other precious minerals have been. South Africa is the world's leading producer of gold. Uranium is also an important export, among other important minerals. Some of the South African countries are already taking advantage of hydroelectric power, and in this case, hydropower is produced from the Kariba Gorge. So in 1959, a huge dam was completed, and then between then and 1963, the Kariba Gorge filled in. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people were displaced. They had to move because water filled in where their homes were, but it's been beneficial for the production of electricity. Another very important natural resource for many of these countries in South Africa is the wildlife. So just like we talked about the important wildlife in Kenya and Tanzania, the giraffes, lions, tigers, and all those great things, well, they have a lot of that sort of thing in this part of Africa as well, like these giraffes in the Parque Nacional do Quixama. And finally, the grand pangolin. Looks like a giant pine cone, kind of, but this unique animal walks on its rear legs. It uses its tail to balance. Now, you see it here on its forefeet. But what it's doing is it's digging for ants. And so that's its primary food, but it also eats a lot of rocks while it's doing that. So don't be too concerned though, the rocks serve a purpose. What they actually do is they grind up those ants for digestion for the pangolin. So that's it for the preview of this section of Africa, physical geography. Please, if you want, you can read the print version of the lesson, but please do the quiz and send that my way when you get a chance. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week.